The following position with black to move is very close. Fischer Biscaya, Championship of the United States, 1958. What to do? For the moment, Biscaya defended very well and only later made a mistake, but it's, of course, white is for choice. Activity is the order of the day, as is often the case in rook endings. F5 to weaken white's central pawns and then to bring the king into play. The price is, of course, that on the queen side, white will get a favorable setup with the rook behind the residing pass pawn, but Biscaya's king is quick enough to secure the draw. Well, for the moment, everything's okay. And now, after b7, black can get counterplay with his central pawns. And it should be a draw. So Bobby took. And now, rook b8. As after rook b4, black is in time for king c5. Otherwise, white would be winning, of course, with this strong position of the rook behind the passed pawn. But here, it cannot be maintained. And then the drawish tendency of rook endings should prevail. So Bobby had to go for this endgame with an extra pawn. But, it should nevertheless be a draw. But okay, not so easy over the board, of course. For the moment, Biscaya defends well. Okay, so Bobby decides to give back the pawn, but his point is good. For a practical point of view. Check, and now the body check tells, and white has, of course, still practical chances. The table base says that it's a draw, but now comes the critical moment. d4 or rook b3 or something else. After rook b3, black is always in time with his counterplay, and it is a draw. Now, somehow the rook has to make a decision, and then it is clear that it is a draw once sample line runs. And black's d-pawn saves the day. Good. But it's of course not so easy here. No doubt about that. After d4, white wins. Maybe Biscaya missed Bobby's answer. Backward moves are always difficult to spot, I think. Again, this beautiful body check. And check, very good technique. But now, what now? Again, a king backward move, king c4, king e4, or pass pawns must be pushed. In this case, pass pawns must be pushed. Chess really is a difficult game, of course. And the rook behind the pass pawn, and now black is in all variations just too slow. But really it is a bit paradoxical, I must admit. And white wins. King b4. And after king c4, Biscaya had another last chance to save the day. d3 or king g3 or something else. Amazingly, king g3 still saves the day, as the king manages to come back in time to draw the resulting pawn endgame. King f4. And as the pawn endgame is a draw, yeah, white cannot win the whole position. It's a bit astonishing that first king g3 must come, so that the king is then back in time on the queen side in the pawn endgame variation. And after d3, it's over now. Bobby played king c3 again, this backward king move, and now he has surrounded the d pawn and wins it first and the game later. Okay, one move I want to still show. What now? Show good technique. Rook d8. This is often very good. The rook takes away the 8th rank from black's rook, so that there's no maximum checking distance there to be found. And yeah, now white will be able to cross over, and white wins. Now Bobby's pawn can cross the middle of the board, and important is that this pawn ending as won as Bobby had calculated, that he wins the fight for the key squares directly, as the key square a6 cannot be protected, of course. There it is, and now it's over, and so this guy resigned. Botvinnik, Fischer, Varna, Olympiad 1962. The United States against the Soviet Union is one of the most famous endgames of Bobby. Yeah, and here he had a winning position against the great patriarch Botvinnik. But what to do? Especially considering that it is the 41st move and the adjournment is near. Here he made a big mistake. He should just keep the position, play on for some moves, and then seal something, and then see in the adjournment analysis how to proceed and how to break white's setup in the best way. Botvinnik gives, for example, this line, and black must be winning with his towering knight on c5. While white's bishop is shooting in the air or biting into the wall of granite into on the king side. This must be winning in the long run. While exchanging the minor pieces is a major mistake, as rook endings have a very large drawish tendency. Here rook c7 is called for, I think. It's more active, more in the spirit of rook endings. Here Bobby gets another chance. a5 is called for, I think, as also given by Kasparov, as this can be met by rook before the pawn ending would be won for black, and now black's rook is more active. The queen side pawns have already won some tempi in races with good practical winning chances. While in the game, Bobby had a clear plan, but it seems to be too slow. Amazingly, the counterplay seems to be quick enough. Okay, king h6 would be one last try, but it already looks a bit passive. Yeah, rook c7, and after a4, the game was adjourned, and the Soviet team analyzed the whole night long, and Guller found a fantastic plan to draw, which worked out well, as we will see. And now in the resulting races, white always seems to be in time. White starts with check, and now his h-pawn always seems to be just quick enough. Amazing. Yeah, king taking the pawn is of course not possible, so king f3. And king d4 we will see later. This is, was debated in a fascinating duel of analysis by Bobby in his work My 60 Memorable Games, and by Botvinnik, who also showed it in a training session of his Botvinnik chess school, and then Kasparov also contributed something. But first, let's see the game. Why was b5 a mistake? What had Bobby missed? h5, and now it's completely drawn, because without his valuable b pawn, black cannot harbor hopes to win. He only has 2 rook's pawns left, and they do not provide good winning potential, and so yeah, it is now a clear draw. Okay, Bobby played on for just to play on somehow, but here it is clear that it must be a draw. Now it is absolutely clear, and after some further moves, draw was agreed, and then Bobby left the tournament hall very disappointed. But the German analysis was, of course, one of the great strongholds of the Soviet team. And here they proved again why this was the case, and Geller's idea works. And Geller's idea even works in this variation. Bobby analyzed it very long in his excellent My 60 Memorable Games. And Botvinnik follows it. White's h-pawn is just quick enough. But, okay, first the big series of checks starts until black's king finds a safe harbor on a3. Finally, the king has arrived, and now a fourth phase of the game results. Yeah, this is the reason why Fischer and Botvinnik, of course, disagreed. It's always difficult to assess such positions without a computer, of course. For the computer, it's not so difficult, but for humans, it is. Black has the first check, so black might be winning, but... And then Bobby claimed that black is winning, but his rook is misplaced now. There's no rook check. And yeah, Bobby claimed that black is winning now, but Botvinnik found queen of 8 check and queen c5, and it is a draw, and Botvinnik is right. And in a session of the Botvinnik chess school, the 13-year-old Garry Kasparov even found another way to draw with rook c4 in this fourth phase of the game. So it's really amazing how such chess games can fascinate world champions and coming world champions for so many years, and such a duel of analysis could be made. And finally here also the Soviet analysis won, and Geller's brilliant ideas saved an important half point for Botvinnik. The following endgame, Bobby Fischer from the Porterish Interzonal 1958, is also more famous for the following analysis than for the game itself. Bobby played rook h1, and then Bobby's counterplay is always in time now. In this race of 2 c-pawns against White's connected pass pawns, black has enough time, as the c-pawn is a bit further advanced and will cost the rook. What now? Rook g8, the typical way to win time, as now White's king must come, and then black's second c-pawn is just in time to save the day against White's queen. And so a draw was agreed. But after the game, Petrosian analyzed in the tournament bulletin that rook h7 wins, and Bobby gave his analysis in his excellent masterpiece, My 60 Memorable Games. But it is not correct. Later in 2007, probably, I'm in my 61 memorable games, which is a bit, work, it is not clear if it's really by Bobby or not, and so on and so on, so I don't know, but there is claimed that rook a8 now draws as well, and that should be right. And I follow here Charles Sullivan's analysis, what he sent me for Endgame Corner 100 and 101, but of course I had to delete all the almost all the annotations and the other variations, so that it fits into this video format. I just want to deal with Petrosian's line and then the mistake, which was found later. Yeah, and Sullivan was one of them who found the mistake and mailed it to me. So this is all given by Petrosian. And now black seems to be a bit slower, and this might just be too slow, but in fact it is still possible to draw the race. But such races are really amazingly difficult. There can so many endings result, queen endings, and so on and so on. It's really difficult. And here comes the problem. King c4 or king b4. Petrosian gives king c4, and this indeed does lose. Fischer quotes this in my 60 memorable games. But after king b4, the position is a draw. Amazingly, black's counterplay is now always in time. There are many other lines, I had to delete them here. Now, of course, again, rook g8, this is an important technique. Now white's king must come. c4. And the final, the next point is rook d8. This wins important time and frees the rook. If the rook is taken, then black's c-pawn will queen with check, and the queen will then save the day. So white must move somewhere else, but now black is again just quick enough with his counterplay. It's really amazing. Check. And now the second c-pawn saves the day, as white's king is just outside the winning zone. It's really close. Oh, this can't be removed, of course. And white's king is now just outside the winning zone of the c2 pawn with the king on the wrong side. It's really amazing how close this is. And without a computer and without the table basis, it is of course next to impossible to reach the final conclusion here. So it's, it is understandable why Fischer and Petrosian could err here in this moment, but later, of course, in my 61 memorable games, rook 8 was also given to draw, and also other drawing lines, and so here and here, the position, oh, this is not the right, excuse me, here, this is a point where I wanted to go back. Here, Petrosian played king c4 and analyzed king c4, and then it's indeed lost. But after king b4, black is just quick enough to save the day in the race. But nevertheless, of course, this would have been a better winning try than rook h1, but against best defense, still insufficient.